Rachel.
Hi.
How are ya?
Great. Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. All right, we're going to give everybody a few minutes to join. Usually get started a couple minutes late to let people kind of trickle in. That's a good reminder to set my do not disturb on. All right. Okay, it's a minute past. We can go ahead and start with some introductions and get started. Dr. Rachel Bradrick, thank you for joining us today to talk about getting some movement in our lives as caregivers. I really appreciate you being here.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So for everyone who's joining the webinar today, I want to go ahead and introduce Rachel a little bit. She is a doctor of physical therapy. She is in the Kansas City area and currently works as a pelvic floor physical therapist, but she has kind of a long history working with a lot of different types of patients and different kinds of scenarios. So Dr. Rachel, can you go into a little bit more detail about what you have done professionally for caregivers?
Yeah. When I first graduated from physical therapy school, I was primarily looking into working in geriatric populations. And so I worked in skilled nursing facilities, long-term care facilities, some assisted living, and just love it. Like that population is just like the cutest little sweeties. And I loved being treated like I had 500 grandparents. It was just like the best. Um, and I ended up then transitioning into a facility that had geriatric long-term care and skilled care, but then also had traumatic brain injury, and neuro-related issues. So
Mhm.
strokes, and spinal cord injuries and all of that. So I kind of got to have both the geriatric care as well as some more like intensive medical needs, which again just kind of helped me have a better understanding of like how to caregive for a lot of different populations, while still getting my fix with the geriatric population. So I transitioned out of that in 2020. I had a second child. Obviously, the pandemic happened. And then when I went back into physical therapy, that's when I started into pelvic health. But I will never have the ability to leave or get rid of the soft spot that I have for geriatric care.
I love that. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing. As you know, people who are part of study and who are listening to this webinar, they're all caring for a loved one in some capacity, a lot of times in their own home.
Yeah.
And also, as you know, caregivers are generally very short on time, sometimes energy, resources, trying to figure out how to do a lot with our lives in a short amount of time during the day. But
Yeah.
one thing that we wanted to talk about today was just how important it is to get movement into your life as a caregiver. And then also, I know how many caregivers are going to watch this and think, how can we apply this to my loved one as well? So it's going to
Yes.
be about both.
Yeah.
But let's just jump in and talk a little bit about why you think just exercise in general or just movement. Sometimes we think about exercise as being really intense, but
Right.
just movement. Why is that so important for anyone, but especially a caregiver?
Yeah, exercise and movement just play roles in literally every area of your body. Your body relies on blood flow. Blood flow requires movement. So even as small as like fidgeting has been shown to like actually help. So literally just moving the different muscles of your body. But it can help with your cognitive function, how well your brain works, because literally you have to have blood flow to your brain. And if you're just sitting, it doesn't do that. It doesn't go to your brain as well. Obviously can help with sleep health, we kind of know, and mood with all the endorphins. They don't suck. As well as like bone density, muscle strength, decreasing risk of falls, which almost always leads towards morbidity and mortality. And then a big one again is immune system. So those things that like fight different infections have to be able to get to those areas of the body. And if the blood is not moving because you are not moving, then that doesn't happen. So if you can think of exercise more than just like muscle strength, cardiovascular strength, like yes, those are hugely important, but it's really like the downstream effects of like what does using your heart and using your muscles actually do to all the other tissues of your body.
Yeah, and I think that thinking about it that way just makes it more accessible because now all of a sudden you're not looking at how do I fit in a 30-minute exercise routine or
No.
a trip to the gym or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't have to be anywhere near that serious. It's literally like, have I been sitting still for an hour?
Right.
Okay, can I even just get up and walk a lap around the kitchen and
Right.
just get some
Help
sort of movement happening? So,
somewhat.
yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing that we know is when you become a family caregiver in this capacity, a lot of times our own physical health, along with our mental health and emotional health, starts to slip. But I think the physical health aspect surprises people because we're
Hmm.
so focused on taking care of their loved one that exercise going away, movement, even new basic nutrition, things like that kind of fall to the wayside.
Yeah, it's hard to be with somebody who maybe has limited mobility or limited ability to get out into the community, and then you don't really realize how much you would have normally done if you were not in that position. And so you really have to kind of replace what you would have normally done at the age and stage of life that you are, and not kind of like move into that age and stage of the person that you're giving care to.
Right. Because that is also not good for them if you don't if you can't keep
Right.
strength to help move them or complete their task.
Totally. Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it.
And a lot of caregiving does require a lot of strength and balance and all of those things. So like even like yes, overall health, absolutely movement and exercise, but like you are required to do things, even if it's just like check a balance as they're walking or help them upstairs or whatever. Like if you are not physically capable, then your body is going to compensate somehow, and we don't want that either.
Yeah. Love it. All right, I've promised everyone really practical takeaways from this and how they can weave a lot of this into their daily life as a
Yeah.
caregiver. I know that you typically start with just breathing.
Yes.
Can you walk us through a breathing exercise?
Yeah, absolutely. So your lungs obviously pull the oxygen into the blood, which is what then the tissue uses a lot of times, but also the diaphragm itself as you inhale comes down. And so that actually, like the diaphragm is a muscle, the diaphragm affects the muscles of your abdomen, of your back, all of that kind of thing. It also affects your nervous system. So if your nervous system is a little elevated, you're, stressed, anxious, things like that. Deep breathing kind of helps put your body in a place of like, we are safe so that we can grow. If we're in a state of like anxiety, fear all the time, or just stress, a lot of times our body's like, well, we're not going to use any extra resources to like build muscle, um, heal new tissue, anything like that. And so you kind of have to start with, are we breathing?
Yeah.
Before we do anything else. Because a lot of people, when they just are stressed, they're just kind of clamping down. So, what I normally teach is that you don't necessarily have to worry about the exhale part when you're deep breathing, but you want to inhale through your nose
Mhm.
over the course of 4 seconds in a
Mhm.
really gentle way. So, sometimes when people think deep breathing, it's like this and I'm like, okay, we're not actually running from like a tiger here. Like we're trying to like calm our body down a little bit. So it's more like you almost shouldn't hear the inhale at all. So it's and then you just let it out. And you can pause at the bottom for like a second and then do it again. And I normally tell people like about 1 to 2 minutes of deep breathing. Kind of, if you get into that rhythm, it does require you to like kind of pay attention a little bit to what you're doing. It's really hard to be distracted and breathe that slowly. It's really hard to, you know, be tense and be able to inhale for that period of time. So kind of getting into a rhythm of like 4 to 8 breaths. If you do more than that, you'll start to hyperventilate. So
Don't
don't
you?
make yourself dizzy. But yeah, 4 to 8 breaths and then just like breathe normal for a while. And if your body's like, ooh, we could use another round of that, go ahead and do another round of that. But if you can kind of put that all throughout your day, I normally tell people like on transition points, like first getting out of bed, like before you do that, take a few deep breaths. After you've brushed your teeth, take a few deep breaths, etc., kind of all throughout the day to just kind of check in with your body, check in with your nervous system, and give it like the oxygen that it needs.
Yeah.
We always start there.
Always start there. And
Yeah,
I imagine in those instances where things you do start to feel like you're going into that fight or flight mode,
right.
um,
For sure.
that's a good exercise to just kind of
Yeah, if you're practiced at deep breathing, then your body can kind of fall into that in times of like crisis or whatnot and just be like, okay, no, we can't hold our breath when we need to like use our brain to figure out how to fix the problem. But if you haven't practiced deep breathing, your body doesn't really have that pathway to go into during a stressful like time period. Yeah.
Okay, let's start with some gentle stretches that you recommend.
Yeah, so stretching is an interesting one. We like to add stretching with breathing, and stretching is really for like how you feel, kind of connecting to your body more than stretching, unless you are doing it like all of the time, doesn't have a huge amount of change to the tissue at the tissue level. But it can kind of cue your body to like let go of that tension, let go of like how we're holding our body in a little bit of like a shortened position. But more than anything, it's kind of like a move your body how you feel tension. So I like to have people do like get into a happy baby, which is lying on your back with your like either your knees or your ankles or some part of your legs kind of lifted up into the air over yourself. And then you just kind of sit into that and breathe and kind of like try to relax your hips, relax your back, relax your shoulders as they're kind of being pulled forward too. Um, but yeah, you're just kind of in that. I don't know if you've ever seen a little like 4-month-old baby where they're holding onto their feet and like just
Yeah.
like rocking on their back. So that's an easy one. And then turning over where you're kind of like kneeling and sitting back into child's pose with your hands above your head. Your hips kind of are over your ankles. And you can do this in a lot of different modifications. If your knees don't really allow that, you can keep your hips up higher in the air. This would be your head, your hips up high versus like sitting all the way back onto your knees. Or you can like have your chest like on the edge of a couch or the edge of a chair, kind of leaning into that and then sitting back like as far as your knees allow. So you don't feel like you have to like put your forehead on the ground. It's more just like sitting into your hips like that. The other one that a lot of people like is it's called different things, world's greatest stretch, runner's lunge, some different things like that. It's basically you're in some sort of like a relative kneeling position, and then you kind of shift your hips forward, you can
Mhm.
shift your hips back, you can lean forward with your hips forward, you can lean forward with your hips back. And I think we're going to give you like a little maybe handout or something that'll have pictures of this. But just basically things that are more looking at, yes, the muscles are going to stretch, but we also want the joints to be moving in different planes of movement, different places, because you can affect joint mobility a lot more than like objective length of muscle tissue like we normally think of with stretching. Like it's less that your hamstrings need to be stretched and more that your hips need to be able to move within the length that your hamstring allows.
Gotcha.
That makes sense. So some of these more mobility things are what I think people end up getting more like relief from if that's what they're looking for from like a tension standpoint.
Sure. And those positions are not ones that you just naturally get in throughout the day. So they're
Correct. Yeah.
in that
They're
way.
kind of the opposite of like just sitting or whatnot. Yeah, it's kind of pushing you to get into some other positions. Yeah.
Yeah, and like Rachel said, we are going to add a handout when we send out this recording that has pictures of how to do each one of these. So if it's kind of hard to understand as she explains it, don't worry about that. You'll have that
Great.
resource.
Yeah.
All right, let's move past stretching and talk about just some general exercises that you can sneak into your day.
Yeah, so we want you to think like, again, any movement that you do regularly is going to be the best exercise for you. So if you say, well, I hate squats, okay, don't do a squat. I don't care. Is a squat great? Is it a great exercise? Yes. If your body hates it and your mental state says, I'll do it one time, not worth it. I want you to find an activity, an exercise among the list of what we're going to tell you that you're like, yeah, I can do that every single day. That is what you are going to actually get benefit from that standpoint of like, are we moving our body every single day very consistently? That's what we want to do. So, yes, a squat is a great thing. You can do a squat into like a chair if you're not super comfortable with like the position. I normally just tell people to stand in front of a chair and put their butt in the chair and then stand back up. Or the opposite, start sitting and then go into standing. Or you can just do like a regular air squat, holding on for balance if you need to. And then again, you don't need to go like super low. You're just trying to go to where your body feels like, yeah, that's a little bit hard. And then you stand back up.
Okay.
Another one that's easy if you have any kind of a stair in your house is called a step up, where we put one foot on the step or the second step, the first or second step, and then you step up into it. And you can either like put your feet back together on the step, or you can like raise your knee up in the air and then step back down. So you're just kind of like stepping up, coming back down. It activates the whole chain of muscles on your legs, both the front and the back of your legs, which is a great one. Um, Heel raises you can also do on a step where you're just kind of have your forefoot or the front of your foot, the front half of your foot on a stair. You drop your heel and then you raise your heel back up. You can do this on flat ground also. It just doesn't go through the entire range of motion of a heel raise. One that you can do in bed or on the ground are called bridges, where you're laying on your back and your knees are bent and you push through your feet to lift your butt up in the air and you're kind of try to get to like, I don't know, some sort of a straightish angle. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just a couple of glute bridges or bridges kind of activate your glute muscles, which are really important for any kind of other exercise that you do. But it's a super easy one to do if you're like, I'm about to fall asleep, but I'm still feeling like a little anxious, a little, and I just maybe didn't move all the time. You can do a few of those before you go to bed. If you're not like, yeah, I'm going to lay down on the ground in my living room. Some people are like, no. But couches, beds are a great place to be able to do bridges. And then we always want to try to think about doing an exercise that works the outside of your glutes or the outside of your hips, because those muscles are the ones that really protect balance and help you move in a way that is like the correct anatomical movement, not having hips swaying from side to side kind of a thing. So we talk about a lateral leg raise where you're standing, you can hold on for balance, you keep one leg straight as like your stabilizing leg, and then the other leg is being lifted out to the side, kind of like this. And the key with that is just try to keep that leg straight and your toes pointed forward so that you really feel it on the side of your hip. But it's just one that like kind of engages that muscle, activates that muscle a little bit. So these are like basic, throw them in as like 10 reps all throughout your day. Like this is not necessarily like, oh, do these, you can have this whole thing just be your workout if you
Sure.
want to do them all together. But you can also be like, ooh, I'm at the stairs. Maybe I do 5 step ups. Or I'm about to stand up from my lunch table chair. Maybe I can do 10 squats while I'm here and just like add in those little micro bursts of exercise kind of all throughout your day, get your blood moving. Because likely you're going to go and then sit down again. So if you can kind of think, okay, before I sit down, can I do 10 heel raises?
Right.
Just something to kind of increase the overall activity of your day all throughout
Yeah.
your day. It's actually better to do 2 minutes 15 times a day than one 30-minute exercise. It helps your blood flow, it helps your muscles, all those things actually better than just doing a 30-minute. Now, some people are like, I literally can't think about it. I just need to like get my exercise in and to go. Okay, no problem. Also amazing. It's not like that's not good, but I think some people are like real hoity-toity about like doing a workout. And I'm like, just move your body a little bit more. That'd be great. And it's totally counts and you can like pat yourself on the back and gold star in the whole 9 yards. So those
Well,
are, yeah, some easy things to do. Obviously, like if you're if you are running errands, like park farther away from the place, or if you can take the stairs, take the stairs. You're just trying to link kind of what you're already doing and just try to add a little bit of extra oomph to it. So,
Yeah. A lot of us have heard that, like, get your 10,000 steps a day in,
yeah.
which is not always realistic, but it sounds like every step does something.
Yes. Yeah. And it's really, and even the 10,000 steps, it's like just do more than you have been. Any more than you already have been doing is going to increase yours. So if your daily step count is 2,500 steps, it's going to make a huge difference for your body to get 5,000.
Yeah.
Massive difference. So don't feel like it's like, well, I can't get 10, so I might as well not get any. It's like, no, any increase in movement, in steps, like all that is a counter for how much you're moving in a day. That's all it is. So if you can increase how much you are moving in a day, that will help your actual body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that I've heard that stuck with me is like every time I put water on to boil, it's like an instant thing in my head that's like sit here and do 10 squats. Or it sounds like the lateral leg lifts would be a really easy way
Yes.
to do sitting there at your stove. Like, and then it just clicks in your brain.
Because once you start kind of thinking about how you can, it does get easier because it's just like becomes a habit versus at first you'll really have to like be kind of intentional about saying, I'm going to move more. And then once you do that for a while, your body will kind of want that movement more. And so then you'll be like, why do I feel, oh, I'm waiting for the water to boil. I'm supposed to be moving my body right now. And it'll kind of like be a self-perpetuating cycle that's really helpful.
Yeah. The other thing that we're going to have in the resource that we send out are several like very specific statistics about how just a little bit of movement can go a long way. But I know a lot of times I hear people like ask the question, is it really worth it? Are those 10 squats really worth it? Is my 2 minutes really worth it? And I know you have said that it is very worth it, but what would you say to somebody who's like, is she just yanking my chain?
Yeah. So what I'll say about that is that the 2 minutes is worth it if it's more than just 2 minutes consistently. So like 2 minutes, one time a month, no, that's probably not going to do anything, right? In theory, overall. The
Yeah.
idea is that you just start moving more. So like 2 minutes matters if it's 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, 2 minutes there, 2 minutes there, and all of a sudden you have this like habit of overall more movement. That is the ultimate goal. It's basically like, again, however you can do it consistently, however you can do it every single day for the rest of your life. That's what you need to do. And if
Yeah.
it's no squats, then it's no squats. No problem. But it has to be something that you will do every single day. 2 minutes once a month, not going to do anything. 2 more minutes than you've ever done before every single day for a year, big difference. Because then 2 minutes just, it will become four and it will become four 10 times a day. And all of a sudden you've worked out for 40 minutes every single day of your life without
Right.
ever actually like going to a gym or doing anything like that. So the key is the consistent part of it. It's not just the 2 minutes, it's doing 2 minutes consistently. It's doing 2 minutes every single time you brush your teeth. That does make a difference. Doing it once, probably. Like you're not going to get a huge like sleep boost. Do you know what I mean? But
Right.
cumulatively, overall, you will see significant like health benefits and longevity benefits if you are consistent with movement.
Yeah. And even even the 2 minutes, like when I started consistently doing some of those things, um, helps wake me up. I get a few of
Yeah.
like I get a little dopamine hit. It makes me feel
Mhm.
better. My nervous system calmer right away, even after those just 1 or 2 minutes, which I also
Yeah.
do that your day. So for
Yeah.
what that's worth. Okay, let's talk about how to help your loved one get in some more movement and understanding that all the caregivers here have loved ones in different situations. Some of them are
Totally.
feet moving, some of them are in a chair most of the day, some of them are bedbound. So can you give us just a few ideas of how to help your loved one get some movement in?
Yeah, the first thing I always tell people is that they can do more than you think they can. Whether or not they want to is completely up to you. But working in geriatric and skilled care, a lot of times they just need that encouragement to like start or like try, and all of a sudden they've done 10, squats from their wheelchair, and you're like, okay, like that's amazing. But it like that first habit creation is a little bit tough when they're like, my body is tired. And it's like, yeah, fair, honestly, fair. Also, we can do a little bit more. So, with any of this, some of it is like, let's do one and see how that goes. Or, let's do things, where you feel comfortable and then we can kind of see where you're at. And again, movement is movement. So, if they are like bedbound and they have use of like one arm, okay,
Mm.
let's do some windmills with that arm. Let's move it however we're dance party, whatever it is to like move whatever they can. Um, as they can. And sometimes it can be helpful, but like you can assist them. But more than anything, I'm like, what can they do? See if they can do it like on their own and then assist for like safety purposes, obviously. Um, but things like the bridges, if they are laying in bed, they can help them bend their knees and then see if they can just lift their butt off of the bed,
Even
right?
it
They're laying in bed.
a little bit. Yeah.
Just a little bit, like, because that activates all those muscles, gets the blood flowing. Can they bring a knee to their chest and then place it back down? Knee to their chest, place it back down, as if they are marching, but they're laying down. You can move that into like seated activities. You can do marching from a chair. You can do like even just standing up, seeing if
Mhm.
you can stay standing for 1 minute, sitting back down, standing up, stay standing for a minute, sit back down. Like that can be a lot of exercise. Obviously, you can titrate this up to like whatever, it might be that they can hold, like they're not going to use their arms to stand up from a chair because that's a lot harder if you can't push from the chair. Can they just use their legs to stand up? Can they hold something while they're standing up from a chair? Like there's lots of ways to increase the difficulty of it, but the same movements, like step ups, it's like all those same movements that we talked about that you can do, you just kind of like change them a little bit, modify them a little bit so that they can do it. So maybe it's stand up from a chair to the kitchen counter and then they lift their leg out to the side 3 times. And then they sit back down in a chair, stand back up, do the other leg. And that's part of the 1 minute of standing. Like you could kind of put a lot of these different things together. Um, if they're standing at the kitchen counter, can they walk sideways, holding on for balance, but they walk sideways 4 or 5 steps, walk sideways back, and maybe use the counter only, if you need to for balance. So, a lot of it is just like functional movements. Maybe they transition from laying down to sitting up, laying down to sitting up, laying down to, and you do it 5 times before you actually get out of bed. Again, don't wear them out if it's a very hard transfer, but like you can use the things that they already do to help them be stronger in things that they need to do. But if you just do it 10 times, all of a sudden that's an exercise, right? If they have to transfer from the bed over to a wheelchair, okay, transfer back and forth from the bed to the wheelchair 4 or 5 times. That's like 10 squats, essentially, plus the balance of that transition. And it might be like lay down, sit up, transfer, stand up, transfer, lay down again. Like you can kind of play within the environment that you already have to do that. Again, if you have stairs and you can do it safely, stairs are a super good exercise for geriatric adults. Like it's one of those indicators where if they can still do stairs safely, that's a great indicator of their muscle strength, health, overall morbidity. Um, you can use things from around your house, cans, backpacks are another good thing if they can handle that kind of weight, to add weight to an activity if it's a little bit too easy. If you can do more than like 15 or so of something without it being super challenging, that's kind of the indicator that you might need to add weight. But it can be cans of soup, it can be, things that you have around your house that are easily accessible. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Um, Another one that we do a lot is chair push-ups. So if you have an armchair or a wheelchair and you just push down with your arms to try to lift your butt up, trying to use your legs as little as possible, that's a really great arm workout. Same with pulling yourself up using like the edge of a bed or something like that that you can, or a door frame, you can kind of pull and lift with your arms. Pulling and pushing are the most important movements. So if you can kind of either pull your body weight up using your legs as little as possible or push up and just lift your butt off of a chair, um, those are good arm things. But if you could just kind of look around, like what do you already do movement wise? And can you add a few extra reps to that? Can you add a few, add weight, add, anything like that. Um, Walking again is always, if they can walk for 6 minutes, it's a massive indicator of health. Um, just the ability to continuously move for 6 minutes is great. Same with honestly, if they're in a wheelchair and you can safely go outside, or if there's like a little loop within your house and they can push their own wheelchair for 6 minutes, that is kind of like an indicator, a threshold essentially that healthcare professionals would look at to say like, okay, their endurance is like functional.
Yeah.
So yeah, any of those kinds of things are great things to kind of add. The last one that we talk about a lot is practicing what's called a floor transfer, or the ability to get up off of the floor. Because that's a huge thing to like not have to call the fire department. If for whatever reason you do fall down and you are not obviously injured, you didn't hit your head or they didn't hit their head, um, to be able to like get yourself off the floor, or like off of the, like if you fell off the toilet or something like that. Those are kind of things that um, are good to practice if you can do it safely. So this is obviously like before it is so hard where you're gonna practice it and have to call the fire department. Do not do that. Don't do that. But if you can, and the idea is that if you like, the idea is to try to get kind of into a kneeling position next to a surface, whether it's a dining chair, the couch, and then use your hands to push up and then just sit your butt onto the chair. So it's not like you can do a full, like, can I get up without using my arms? But the idea is that you like crawl over to a seat of some kind, get into a kneeling position with one knee forward, one knee back, and then you use your hands to just like lift enough to pivot your butt onto a chair. That's
Uncomfortable.
kind of the idea. And we will link a video of how that looks, but it is ch more challenging than you think. It requires more muscle strength than you think. And so practicing it is actually quite an exercise.
Yeah.
So even if you're like, yes, it's no problem for me, that's the perfect time to then do it 5 times and
Yeah.
see how that feels, because it is a total body workout. So that's the other one I kind of say. And then you and your caregiver get really good at it. And if there is a crisis situation, it's a little less scary because you're like, oh, okay, we know what we're doing. We got this.
We practice.
We've practiced this. Yeah. But it's one that like if you know that, again, you can save yourself a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like any of those functional movements, even if you don't get into a crisis situation, just being able to get up out of bed,
yeah.
I imagine would do wonders for somebody's confidence,
Yes.
and independence, and mental health
Yeah.
and that thing
Yes. Yeah. Along with the benefits of the actual movement
of the
for your
actual.
mental health and your mood and all of that.
And as a
Yes.
caregiver, if you're able to help your loved one move, I would assume in most situations, you're delaying the amount of time that you have to do more literal heavy lifting for them.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. The longevity of independent living massively increases if your functional mobility is independent. Yeah.
I know something about you that I would love our audience to know. You
Okay.
known for being a very animated cheerleader. You talked a little bit about like helping people kind of stretch their limits just a little bit. Okay, my body can't do this. Okay, well, let's just try one. Do you have any tactics for caregivers who might be dealing with somebody who may feel really stubborn or negative or just in a bad headspace? Like, how would you tell a caregiver to maybe try to inspire their loved one to give it a shot?
Yeah. I mean, I think that like just having a really excited demeanor helps. I mean, when I worked in geriatric, I wore red lipstick every single day because the geriatric grandpas just loved that. And if I came in like, okay, time for PT, they'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. But if I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you today. I cannot wait to see what we can do today. Let's check you, like see how strong you are today. It would be like, okay, we can do that. Now, that's a dynamic from a relative stranger to somebody else. And so that doesn't always work if you have like dynamics within the caregiver care um, taker relationship. But generally, positive excitement, fun, silliness.
Yeah.
Again, I would have my patients dance a lot, even though I'm terrible at dancing, but it was like throw on some happy music, say this is what we're gonna do. I mean, this is gonna sound so silly. And if you know your person and this is gonna be condescending, then don't. But like sticker charts or like reward charts that maybe you're both doing, where it's like, if I do this and you do this, then we go get a pastry or something. That's what I would choose. Or like we get a new puzzle to then do together, like some sort of like fun reward system. If you start implementing some of these things, sometimes that can help. Again, some people they'd be like, I'm not for, and you're like, okay, fair. But some people like, especially if you do it with them, then that can be really positive. But generally, like silly, positive, those kinds of things are happy. Otherwise, a lot of times it's like know your audience. Is
Yeah.
it, if you stand at the counter, then we can do our crossword together standing.
Yeah.
Instead of like whatever you're doing together, can you do it standing or can you do it sitting up versus laying down on the side of the bed? Can you, um, whatever they're like into, can you bring that and like merge those two activities together with like, okay, yes, we're gonna watch TV, but in like we're not gonna turn on the next episode until we've done X, Y, or Z. Or whatever it is for you guys that you can kind of like bring the fun to the
Yeah.
exercise, at least at the beginning, when you're first implementing new strategies, new habits, it is
Mhm.
hard. And so if you can kind of have something that you're marrying with it, that generally helps the motivation.
Yeah. Is it better, or maybe, but this is my untrained brain asking this question. Is it better to kind of go with their schedule? Like if you know this person has more energy in the morning,
Yeah.
we do this in the morning. Or is it better to stretch and like stretch their comfort zone? Like if they're,
Yeah.
you know, later in the afternoon, they're starting to get tired. Is that a time to do exercise or is that a time to let them rest?
No, go with their schedule. I mean, that's true of like, in my opinion, all human nature. If you make me exercise at 5 a.m., I'm gonna say no. If you let me exercise at 10 a.m. when I want to, then I'm all gung ho about it. So yeah. And obviously, like, no, too, like, okay, they've got a big doctor's appointment at 10 a.m. We're not doing crazy things at 9 a.m. beforehand. Like know your schedule. The if you're not used to going on outings, an outing itself has a lot of movement, a lot of, stress and that kind of thing. So yeah, the goal is not necessarily to like hit them while they're down. It is more like now it might be like, okay, we're really getting tired. This is a great time to like get into a meditative deep breathing moment or more of like the mobility things. Those are great to start doing kind of when you're more tired. But yeah, if they're like in a super grouchy mood, I wouldn't be like, okay, well, 10 squats. Like maybe not. They might resent that a
Fair.
little bit. So yeah, again, try to keep it in a happy place so that it continues to be a positive activity.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. Also in the resource, we're going to send us some of Dr. Rachel's kind of favorite apps and YouTubers and things like that that you can just find online if you have a little bit more time for exercise. Is there anything in specific that you wanted to recommend kind of off the cuff?
No, there's so much free resources on YouTube. I mean, like if you're like, I really like Pilates, amazing. There's a million Pilates YouTubers. If you like yoga, yoga with Adriene, but there's a million. There are kickboxing YouTube videos and apps. There are, if you like high intensity, that there's that. If you like core, like anything you like, you can find it for free.
Yeah,
So it's not something that like you need to have this like paid subscription. Sometimes people will do that because it helps them be consistent,
sure.
which is important versus like just randomly, YouTube searching for something. But for the most part, no. Find some free resources. There's a million on like they're everywhere. And again, I don't like I say, this is what I like. Okay, great. But that's what I will do consistently. And that's not the same for you. So it really is just like find something that I like to do step aerobics. Okay,
Yeah.
amazing. Such a great workout. Do it.
Dance workouts. I know.
Yes.
On YouTube.
So
It is.
and it
Yep.
might change. You might be like, okay, winter, I'm really into like yoga, like a little slower. Okay, amazing. Summer hits, and I'm like, I'm gonna go,
Yeah.
boxing. Amazing. Love it. So just kind of go along with like what you'll do. Will you do it regularly?
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to share my screen here for just a second and walk anyone through kind of what Steady is. Somehow you've heard of Steady because you got connected to this webinar. But in addition to having webinars like this with Dr. Rachel and other professionals that we've had webinars with before, we offer a lot of resources for family caregivers over at Steady. And I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of what is available to them and how to access those. So, really quick, Steady is a completely virtual platform that was entirely built with caregivers in mind. Our kind of bread and butter offering is that you can sign up. This is all completely free. You can sign up and match with what we call an advocate, who is kind of a caregiving coach. All of our advocates, they have personal experience with caregiving on some level, and they have a professional background in nursing or behavioral health or some kind of field where this type of work just makes a lot of sense. When you match with that advocate, you get to meet with them over video calls a couple times a month. You can send them messages if you have things going on, but that person is really there to help you deal with whatever challenges are in front of you. There's so many resources out there for how to take care of your loved one, and we're really glad that those exist, but there are a lot fewer resources about how to take care of yourself as a caregiver when you're in that position. So that's what our advocates are really for. As you work with those advocate with your assigned advocate, they'll get to know you, they'll get to know what's going on in your life, they'll get to know your personality, and kind of what you respond to best. And they're going to offer you little bite-sized practices, trainings, ideas that you can implement in your daily life. And I think a lot of what Dr. Rachel shared today, just kind of these small movements, little bit matters. That is the kind of stuff that we're talking about working through it into your daily life. We're not talking about big routine changes or taking on something extra. You have enough on your plate for sure.
Mhm.
Um, and then the last thing is we have a caregiver community where you can communicate with other caregivers online. We share a lot of resources in that community. Today's webinar will be posted in that community, and all of our previous webinars are there. So that is all available to you, and it is very easy to sign up. You just go to steady.com, and if you're not looking at the screen, that's steadii.com. And once you get to that page, it will give you a few options. You can talk to an advocate right away to ask some more questions. But if you hit anything that says get started, you will be prompted to go ahead and sign up, fill out a form to tell us a little bit more information about you personally and your caregiving situation. And then it will match you with an advocate and allow you to schedule your first appointment. So if you happen to have eyes on the screen, there's a big QR code there that you can scan that will take you right to that website as well. So, like I said, completely free, no strings attached. We do not ask for a credit card, anything like that. We're just here to try and help make caregivers' lives a little bit easier. So,
Yeah,
Dr. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today and for bringing all of your
of
expertise.
course.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was so fun.
And to everyone else, thanks for joining, and we will see you at the next webinar.